All right, we're live.
Hello.
I
Good
want to say
afternoon.
I want to tell everybody happy Friday because I'm thrown from the kids being home from school
Yeah.
and um and there's Santa in the background. KJ just turned on Santa. Can you hear that?
I hear the bells. I hear the bells.
We have right in our doorway, you have a big crucifix, you have Jesus, and then you have a big life-size Santa.
Yeah.
And it's like you're hit with
Jesus.
Jesus and Santa.
You know what's sad to me? I don't know, I was reading this woman's post, and it's somebody I like, but she was talking about how, like she and her family are not doing Santa and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, to me, like that's not
Get
um
it to dad.
I was like, that's kind of like a bummer to me because like in our house, I mean, like, because like we do that, but like we do like Saint Nicholas, because like
Right.
Saint Nick was a real person, and
Exactly.
I'm like, that's kind of a bummer. Like, teach your kids about Saint Nicholas. Like, teach your kids about that real person. That he
Yes.
did exist. Like, teach them about that history. Of Saint Nick, and it's important. Like, the importance of Saint Nicholas. Like, teach your kids about these important people. Like, even if you're not Catholic, I get it, but like, teach your kids about these people in history that made a difference, like in the church, in history of Christianity, and the awesome things that they did. And I don't
I
know.
mean, absolutely. Whether you're Catholic or not, it's you can't take that away. He was a real person. These people existed. The saints. Jesus
Yeah,
is Jesus. The saint. Well, even if you're agnostic, Jesus is Jesus. You can't take that away. The saints are the saints. And you know what's one of my favorite funny Christmas movies that does a beautiful, very short portrayal at the beginning of the film of Saint Nicholas is Fred Claus with Vince Vaughn.
oh yeah, I never saw it.
Oh my gosh, it's
Is
so
it good
funny.
though?
Well, it's so funny. And I just love Vince Vaughn, so he could
Yeah.
do anything, any type of movie. I love him. But Fred Claus is one of the funniest Christmas movies. We've already watched it like 3 times this year. But the beginning is Vince Vaughn is a little boy, and his brother is well, his name is Frederick, and Saint Nicholas, the baby, was born. And I wonder, it has to be in real life. Did Saint Nicholas have a brother named Frederick?
I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know. But anyways, it's so cute. So it shows the beginning. And when I talk to my kids about that too, because when everybody comes to the full knowledge of Santa, right? I never want them to be like, so heaven's not real and God's not, you know what I mean?
Who does that though? Like, is there
I
ever been a kid who's like people say
right.
that, but like, has there ever been a kid that had a crisis of faith because they
Right.
believed in Santa?
Right.
Like, have I ever had a parent come to me and go, my kid's an atheist because because we did Santa in my home, and now my kid had a crisis of faith, and they don't believe in God now, and
No,
it's
I
all
have
because
not.
of that Santa that we did not. I mean, like, really? Like, is that really an issue that like people have? It's
No.
bizarre to me. Like, I
Well, and I
get
know
the rationale, okay? Like, I get the rationale, but it's like a fart in church for me. Like, it goes over like a fart in church. I just do not believe that anybody is an atheist because their parents
oh, for sure.
their parents did Santa for them as a kid. I don't believe it.
Well,
I was terrified of Santa as a child. So when I came into the full knowledge of Santa, I was like, thank Jesus. Like, I was so thankful to find that out because I was terrified. Like, I was like, ooh, like some guy, like, even though he was bringing me presents, I was like, I don't know.
like for me, the Easter Bunny did that to me. I was always like, because the weirdness in the mall, I'm like, That was weird. I never questioned God once when I found out. I was so sad though. I cried and cried. I was at my grandma's for the weekend. I was in 5th grade. Abby, I was the only one who still believed in 5th grade.
Yeah.
And the kids were they were teasing somebody else, and I remember just anyways coming home and saying, "Tell me the truth." And I cried. But again, it never made me question my faith. It never made me question God or heaven. But I had a rough weekend. just that I was let down from that. But never did I ever think, why did you make me believe? Why didn't you tell me that? Like, that was such a special part of my childhood.
I remember Grace. I don't remember how old Grace was. She's gonna come in here because she's gonna hear me talking about her.
Yeah.
I remember Grace just saying, like, at some point in time, she was like, "You guys know that I know, like, about Santa, right? Like, you guys know that I know that we don't have to keep doing this, right?" And I was like, "Well, but like we do, like, because of your brother."
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and she loves it. Like, now she's really good about it. And
now, do you guys do the thing that's questionable is, though, that I see at 50-50, that I almost find more of an annoyance with it, is the elf on the shelf.
Grace does the elf.
So does Kendall.
So good at it.
So does Kendall. My oldest, both of our oldest. This is what happens when you have a big
Grace writes
a big family.
She like writes the notes.
Yeah.
What's our new elf's name? Kristoff. Our last elf, Ginger, had all of the stuffing removed. One of the kids removed all of the stuffing.
So Ginger, had to.
And so we said that, well, because you unstuffed him, then he doesn't have his magic anymore. So, so I did get a new elf, but Grace is great with the elf. She does the elf, and
it's good as long as it's not a dress. Yeah.
And the boys are really into it. Like, they love it. We're more into the elf actually than they are. We're pretty Santa like too. We're like more like Saint Nick, less like Santa,
Right.
But yeah. Anyway,
it's just
not why we came on the show today. But
no, it's not.
I'm sorry. I was going through mail, and funny thing, when you give to pro-life legislative organizations, and we give to two sort of big give to two in the state of Texas. Mm-hmm. I got the mail yesterday, and I laughed because when I opened it up today, I got 2 Texas State Capitol ornaments. So
there you go.
For me, 1, 2, I guess, give away. So there you go.
I love it.
What do I do with 2 Texas State Capitol ornaments? So pretty though. Like,
send me one.
I'll send you one. So you can
that's pretty.
Ornate and detailed. It's not like a lame ornament.
Not like it. Yeah.
Oh wait, I showed you the wrong side. Look how pretty it is.
Oh, that is pretty.
Isn't that pretty?
I like it.
It's 3D and everything. They're always very ornate. So, and I have one from every year since I became pro-life, because that was when I started giving to pro-life.
Wow. That's awesome.
Legislative organization, so they started giving me one. So it's kind of fun. Anyway.
I love that.
Again,
well,
today.
But as I still can't even believe we're days away from Christmas. But this is so sad what we came. And sad's not even a good way to describe it. What we came on to talk about, and why it's not just a big deal for the Catholic Church. It's why everybody should be alarmed, because this is what's happening. And so Abby, why don't you share who's been canceled and why?
Yeah. So I think most people know, if you're on my page, you certainly know, because I've already talked about it. But Father Frank Pavone, who was the founder of Priest for Life, um, he has essentially been laicized from the priesthood, which is something that is completely shocking. I think for most everyone in the pro life movement. I think for most Catholics, for most actual Catholics, right? For those who are not liberal Catholic. Of course, liberal Catholics are thrilled about this. But yeah, I mean, it's shocking. I think it was completely unexpected. By the way, as of today, whatever today is, December 21st, Father Frank has not received any correspondence about this from the Vatican itself. So the only communication that he has even received about it has been from CNA, from Catholic News Agency. So no one from the Vatican has contacted him and has said, here's the letter, here's what's going on, you've been laicized, here's your crimes against the priesthood, or whatever.
Yeah.
Here's reasoning. Nobody has actually contacted him. He's officially contacted him in some sort of official way. He found out about this through a reporting agency. Okay, through a reporter, he found out that he is I guess technically no longer a priest, and it's absolutely just insane. Father Frank Pavone has been, of course, one of the leading defenders of life in our time, really of all time. He has been responsible for saving tens of thousands from abortion, has founded ministries to help heal women who have regrettably gone through abortions. He has he has worked with so many people like me who have, at one point in time been pro-choice. He walked with Norma McCorvey, who was the Jane Roe of Roe v. Wade, and then eventually later in life became pro-life, and then became Catholic. Excuse me, I'm doing something. Can y'all? So it's been crazy. It's crazy that they would make this decision. Crazier that this decision would be made to laicize Father Frank Pavone, and then people like James Martin, okay, who we know is, can you close the door, please? Thank you. Then people like James Martin, who is a heretic, okay? Not only does he continue to be a priest, but he is a priest, but then continues to move up the Catholic food chain and gets closer and closer and closer to the Pope. He just continues to get promoted. Then you've got these German bishops over, in Germany, and they are, oh, there you go, Jamie. They are performing homosexual unions in the church. Okay. And that is crazy. I mean, that's crazy to me. And I think there is, I mean, I hear what you're saying, Sammy, about disobedience, but I think there's a lot that people don't understand here. There's a whole lot actually that that people don't understand that's gone on for years, and it's actually all detailed beautifully on a website that Father Frank has created with a lot of documentation and things like that, and it's frfrankpavone.com. And people can go and look at that and kind of look at the history of what's gone on over the past many, many years. It's a lot less disobedience than people think it is. And I think that it sort of, there's something to be said about, yes, priests definitely, take a vow of obedience to their bishop. That's, definitely something that they do. And he has been at times he has been obedient to the bishop. He actually moved back to Amarillo. His bishop took him out of the ministry at one point in time and sequestered him back to Amarillo. He went back to Amarillo. He was there, living in Amarillo. He was he actually couldn't at that time. He was supposed to be there for when Doug and I came into the church. He was supposed to be there to administer First Communion and confirmation to Doug and I and to convalidate our marriage. He was not allowed. He could have disobeyed at that time, and he could have done it anyway. He could have said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go back to Amarillo. I'm not going to live in this little house, and I'm going to stay in New York, and I'm going to continue to do what I want to do for Priests for Life. I'm going to continue to travel. I'm going to continue to do all these things. But he didn't. He did obey his bishop. He did go back to Amarillo. He was there actually for quite a long time. He did not come down and do that for us. And in fact, because of that, it actually delayed our coming into the church. We actually had to delay our confirmation, our first Eucharist and all of this stuff for a while. And we were hoping by delaying it that he would be able to then be there for our First Communion and to give us First Communion and confirmation, everything later if we delayed it. Again, he was denied, was not allowed to come even later. And he obeyed. He did not come, even though that was a very special time for us. And it was a very special time for him because he had really, he was really the one that walked with us into the church. He obeyed his bishop. He did not go. Later then, this was even a long time later, he was still in Amarillo, obeying his bishop. Can you please go out there, please? Then later, he's my oldest son's godfather. And we asked him, of course, we wanted him to be there for the baptism. Asked him to be there. He asked for permission, of course, to be at the baptism of his godson. He was denied. He could have said, this is ridiculous. This is in Texas. I'm in Texas. He could have driven down to Austin and he could have been there for his godson's baptism, but he didn't. He obeyed. He stayed in Amarillo. We got a proxy to stand in for him. So there were many times over the years where he actually has been obedient to his bishop. There were many times where other people within the church, cardinals and bishops have advocated for him to be able to transfer diocese, for him to be able to transfer to a different bishop who would have supported his work at Priests for Life. And every single time he's been denied. And there have been other bishops that would have welcomed him, that have said, we would love to welcome. We would love to be the bishop of Father Frank Pavone. And time after time, that has been denied. Why? Why would they deny that when there's clearly he's under a bishop that does not want to support his national work and he's doing? Why? Why would they deny that of him? I don't know. That that begs a question there. So he has not been a parish priest for decades. That is not his calling. That is not what God has called him to do. That is not what he was commissioned to do originally by Cardinal O'Connor when Priests for Life was started, when Priests for Life began. When Priests for Life began, he was commissioned to run and head up Priests for Life. And that's what he has done for decades. And so why someone who has done so much good, and someone who clearly this is what God is calling him to do and continues to call him to do, why a bishop would then want to remove him from that and bring him back to a place where he's not able to effectively do a national ministry, that actually makes no sense. And the only reason that when this persecution really, really began, when this really, really started to escalate, was when he started coming out publicly in favor of Trump. And that really begs a different question, is, why is it that those priests who come out in favor of a very conservative politician are canceled, in this case, are laicized, but those who are supporting people like Biden, those who are actively supporting him, those who are breaking canon law and giving these pro-abortion, pro-homosexual rights, people who are giving those politicians communion, which is in clear violation of canon law, why are they allowed not only to remain priests, but to continue to move up the Catholic hierarchy? Why is that allowed?
I mean, I think this is all just such a good setup to, I want to address all of that, but this is such a good setup to also address the questions, Abby, that you and I get constantly. The number one question, you and I are devout Catholics. We're proud Catholics. We're practicing Catholics. And I'm not going to put words in your mouth. I can only imagine you get this all the time is, no, I was a cradle Catholic. You as an adult made the decision to come into the Catholic Church. So we do have that big difference there. But of course, at any time you want to leave or to stop being a practicing Catholic, you can. Same as me. We're both adults. We can make that decision. But, I always get, how can you stay in the Catholic Church with all of this taking place and all of this going on? And so I think this is also a great segue to, as we're talking about all of this evil and this persecution and canceling, and we're seeing people who are doing the opposite of a Catholic faith, of a Christian faith, being elevated within the church and being able to just take the reins and run. First of all, none of this is a surprise.
No.
Dr. Taylor Marshall has an incredible book on infiltration in the church. This is all, again, none of this, as much as it's heartbreaking, none of this catches us by surprise. And a lot of former satanic people, what's the word, Abby? I was going to say satanic worshipers. Satanists. A lot of former Satanists who have made conversions have chose the Catholic Church, who have run to the Catholic Church because they know someone who's working directly for Satan. And the Satanists, I'll tell you what, describe it best. The Catholic Church is most attacked for a reason. That is the one true holy apostolic church. Satan and his minions and the demons, they are going to come the hardest at what is, am I saying that right, Abby?
They take the Eucharist, right?
Oh my God.
So Satanists want the Eucharist for their rituals because even Satanists believe that the Eucharist is the true body and blood of Jesus Christ. So if Satanists believe it, why don't we believe it? That's the truth right there. And, there are people who ask me that all the time. My friends are like, how bad does it have to get in the Catholic Church for you to leave? And I'm like, as bad as it can, because where else would I go?
And you don't leave Jesus due to Judas.
That's right.
You don't leave Jesus due to Judas. And I'll tell you, one of the most passionate, and it's where you spoke as well, Abby, at the Virginia Beach Convention Center. I was hosting it. Abby spoke. Jesse Romero was there. He's he's one of my favorite male Catholic speakers. And he gets elevated and intense, and he wears a big crucifix on his neck. And he gets the question all the time too. And he said, you don't see me wearing a pope around my neck. You don't see me wearing a certain priest or a certain nun around my neck. You see Jesus Christ around my neck. That is why I'm here. And as bad as it has gotten and what we're seeing, it makes me want to lean into it even more. When I try to go to daily mass. When I don't have the Eucharist daily, my day is off. When I do not receive the Eucharist, I notice it all day, all night. And it is such a gift. And our dear Protestant friends whom we love, I always say to them, the sacraments, I could never live without the sacraments, the Eucharist and confession, baptism, all of the sacraments we have. I'm just so sinful and lost and flawed. I couldn't imagine not having them. And so it's such a gift of what we have. And again, it's simple. It's simple. Abby and I tell people, we do not leave Jesus due to Judas. All of this evil that is running rampant through the church is unfortunately not a surprise. And the canceling, Abby and I spoke with Father James Altman, who is he's taken off globally, is a very popular canceled priest. All I know is that it's going to get worse before it gets better. And those who are standing firm in Christ on true Catholic values, and again, I always have to follow that with just true Christian values, we're being marked as unloving, unchristian-like, not include, because we're not inclusive, it's unloving. But here's the thing, we're not called to accept this sin. I want to get a sweatshirt made. I want to get a t-shirt made. I came up with this slogan, and I will live and die by it, is I'll live and die by it, but I can't come up with it.
I'll live and die by it, I swear.
No, I say it all the time.
I can't even think of it, but I'm going to live and die by it.
Maybe someone has heard it here. Something into, don't you dare love me into hell. Like, hurt my feelings, blast me with truth, ruffle my feathers to get me into heaven, but don't you dare love me into hell. And that is what we're doing, Abby, is a society, our culture, the church. We are loving people afraid to hurt their feelings. We're loving them into hell. Same with abortion. The church, so much of the church is now making, well, it's a political matter. So we can't touch on it. One of my favorite priests, when I was in confession with him, and I go to a couple, I'm not even going to say who, for anyone who's watching this locally, he's like, we just can't talk about that anymore. It's too political. No, it's not political. It's a moral, ethical issue. And I hate when everything's become political. Everything's political now. So we can't talk about anything. And yet it's moral issues. And it just sends me through the roof. And that is what families are doing. That's what communities are doing. We're just loving everybody. Just go ahead and keep sinning, patting them on the back, as long as you're happy. As long as you're happy.
It is not inclusive. I mean, the Bible says that the road is very narrow. It is narrow. It is not a wide road. It is narrow. And so it is not this idea that Christianity is just inclusive of everyone. It is not. It is very exclusive.
Yeah.
And it is exclusive for those who follow God's commands. And, I mean, he doesn't give us those commands because he doesn't love us. He gives us those commands because he does love us. And he gives us those commands because he really knows what's best for us.
Right.
I just went to a talk by one of my favorite deacons, Deacon Ralph Poyo. And he was saying, it's like when you get a manual for your car. It's not like they're trying to be rude. Like, here's a manual, dummy. Like, you don't know like, guy, idiot. You don't know how to fix your own car. You don't know how to do this with your car. They're not doing that because they think you're stupid. They're giving you a manual for your car because they know that these are the rules. These are the instructions. They know how to best care for your car, right? God has given us the word, not because he thinks we're dumb, not because he thinks we're like a bunch of imbeciles, but he's given us these rules. He's given us these instructions because he knows how to best care for our soul. He knows how to best care for our bodies, for our minds, for our spirits. And so he's given us this book, right? Not because he thinks we're dumb, not because he thinks we can't handle it, but because he wants to help us care for ourselves in the very best way. And when I heard that, I was like, yeah, like that makes so much sense.
Right.
And, but I'm just like, when I talked to Father Frank the night that all this came out, and he said something that it's my favorite quote that he says. And he reminded me of it. He was like, Abby, it's your favorite quote I ever say, and I'm going to remind you of it. And he says, when you defend the unborn, you will be treated like them. And, my favorite thing that he says. And I thought, you're right. That is so true. And there have been a lot of opinions that have come out about this. And there was a really great article I read today. And this guy was talking about, James Martin. And he was saying, but the thing about James Martin is that, he's always been obedient. And I said, and I thought to myself, but has he? Because nobody pushed back. No bishop has ever said to James Martin, you know what? You know what, buddy? You got to stop posting about that gay stuff. Nobody's ever said to James Martin, you know what you're doing is wrong and you have to stop. Nobody's questioning James Martin. Nobody's doing that to James Martin. James Martin just keeps getting bumped higher and higher. He just keeps getting promoted and promoted and promoted. But we actually don't know about James Martin's obedience or disobedience because nobody is pressuring James Martin to do anything different than what he has been doing, right? The only people that are getting pressure are the people who are faithfully serving the church, the people who are willing to call sin a sin, the people who are pushing back against the evil out there in the world, right? There's this priest, Matthew Snyder, and he said, somebody asked him, he said, well, has there ever been somebody asked him, has there ever been somebody that's ever been canceled for being pro-choice? And he goes, yes. And all these people started asking him, who has ever been laicized for being too pro-choice? He had no answer. Because there is no answer. Because nobody has ever been laicized for being openly for slaughtering the unborn. Nobody has ever been laicized. Nobody has ever been removed from the priesthood for openly going against church teaching on abortion. We see it right now in Germany. These bishops are not being laicized for openly going against church teaching on homosexuality and homosexual unions. That's not why you get laicized. You don't get laicized for being a heretic. That's why you should be laicized. But that's not why the church laicizes priests, clearly. Because if that was the reason that they laicized priests, then there would be many, many priests that were laicized. They laicized Father Frank because they didn't like what he had to say. And they're not laicizing him because of disobedience, because he has been many, many times obedient to his bishop. They are laicizing him because they don't like what he has to say regarding politics, because he's willing to stand up against this corruption that's taking place inside of our political system, possibly inside of the church. He's willing to call a spade, and they can't control him. And because they can't control him, they're trying to get rid of him. That's why they laicized him, period.
I mean, here's the big question. Okay. Strictly on, Father Frank, of course, always speaking up for the unborn. For any priest, rabbi, pastor, bishop, pope, any human being that believes in God, you can't tell me that the God we all serve, the one true God, would ever, under any circumstance, I don't care, I'm saying the worst circumstance ever, for an unwanted, unexpected pregnancy, a traumatic conception, that God would ever say, you know what, this is bad timing. This was bad for you. So I'm okay with you killing that baby. Never once could our God ever say that. And so and again, abortion has become about liberation and women's rights and politics. and it disgusts me because I feel it is none of those things. It's absolutely none of those things. This is a moral issue. This is similar to, again, we talk about slavery. Well, slavery was legal, so I mean, apparently it was okay when it was legal. It's completely unethical. And anybody who believes in God, because again, the people that come at Abby and I the most, which just blows my mind as a competent woman, is Christian mothers.
Yeah.
Christian and women, but so many are mothers. So many are mothers, and it makes me. I just and this I'm so flawed, and I have to pray for more graces because it sends me through the roof, and it makes me want to flip some tables and say something.
Women are the worst.
Women are the worst.
They're the worst at being critical of other people, and particularly other women.
Women, it's jealousy, and it's there's this. I swear, women have this innate. I swear, all of us can have it at times. It's just how we I don't know when we tend to use it or not, to be nasty. You and I have experienced it way too many times firsthand. And that's so sad because women, and again, and this plays into a whole other discussion you and I've touched on many times of the, the role of the feminist and what defines a woman and so forth. But it's absolutely crushing to me that women, namely Christian mothers, I've had people leave me after following me for years after Roe was overturned because they said I disgusted them, that I said all of heaven was rejoicing. I disgusted them. And it just, I don't understand it. So I think for me, I can't get around that. And these brave priests like Father Frank, who would openly die on that hill, take me right now. I refuse to not defend the unborn. I refuse to be silent on things where we need more people to stand up. I mean, people, take a look around you. I mean, I know our audience is global. We're blessed to have so many people from around the globe, but namely the United States, it is bad. It is just getting worse by the week. And I'll tell you, if you are one of those people being an ostrich, putting your head in the sand, and you're being silent and you're afraid to be divisive, and you're afraid to hurt your neighbor's feelings, or you're afraid to hurt your sister-in-law's feelings, or you're afraid to get on your platform, I don't care if you have 13 followers or 600,000, you must speak up. You just have to, because if you want life different for yourself and if you have children and your grandchildren, Abby and I put our necks on the line all the time. I don't care who you are. You have to start speaking up and taking a stance and finding your hills you're willing to die on. It's
I have a hard time. Maybe it's because I'm a convert, so hear me when I say that. I didn't grow up this way, but I have a really hard time with Catholics who participate in this blind clericalism. Who are just like, oh, so something's unjust. Well, it came from a bishop, so we got to go with it. Oh, this is unjust. Well, I mean, it came from the Pope, so we just got to go with it, even if it's unjust. It was like the vaccine.
Yes.
That was wrong. That was unjust. But because the Pope said it, people were just like sheep, and they went with it. Just because someone says something doesn't mean that you have to be obedient to it if it's unjust.
Absolutely.
I don't. Yeah. I guess I'm just, I don't know. Maybe it's just I got some Protestant roots in me or what. But yeah. But I have a really, really hard time with this clericalism that seems to be, particularly right now, over the past couple years, just really running rampant in the church. People are people, and everyone is a sinner. Everyone walking the earth today is a sinner. And if someone comes to me with something that is unjust, I'm not going to obey it.
Amen, sister.
No matter the cost. And that means anything. That means my job. That means, my reputation. That means anything.
I mean, most people
I'm literally willing to lose anything in order to disobey something that is in front of me and is an injustice. And the fact that so many people, particularly Catholics, are willing to go along with something that is unjust, something that is an injustice, the fact that they are willing to just blindly be obedient to a man is really something that my heart doesn't understand. It's like, I kind of see it as like, when we have a lot of clinic workers that come to us who have worked at Planned Parenthood, and a lot of them sign, NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. A lot of them, especially after I left, they make all these sign all these big, legalese, confidentiality, agreements and all this kind of stuff. But here's the thing, and this is what we tell them all. If you have witnessed something that was illegal, that was wrong, that, something that needs to be reported, your contract is null, right? If you need to whistleblow something, then you don't have to worry about the contract that you signed. You're protected, right? And that's kind of how I see like obedience in the kingdom of God, right? So you can make a vow to something. You can say, I'm going to be obedient to this person, or I'm going to whatever, but if there is an injustice, if you're being asked to do something that is unjust, then it's like that vow is sort of null and void, because God is not going to ask you to do something that goes against your moral character. God is not going to ask you to do something that goes against God.
Right.
And you're not required to do it. And I just feel like that a lot of people walking around calling themselves Christians are just freaking sheep.
They are. And the last 2 years have showed us that, because all we saw was everyone around in a panic, right? And I mean, of course, the media is never going to lie to you. So
Right.
You've got to believe what the media tells you to do. And if you're a true Christian, and if you love grandma, and if you want to save humanity.
Oh, we were all killing grandma.
We were all, I mean, Abby and I, there's death threats, and Abby and I have been, our platform, we've been without our income for The Real Deal of Parenting for a year and 2 weeks.
Yep.
Because we refuse to not share the truth, and refuse to stop exposing evil. I mean, it'd be great to have an income back, but that we have our morals. We have to answer to God. He's given us 1 million people combined, and you didn't tell them the truth. And so that's why my 2 things I always pray for, Abby, every day. The first thing is discernment. I pray for the wisdom and discernment. And the second thing is obedience to follow that, because the sheep that we're just surrounded by, the billions of people that were led astray, and now they've seen what's happened, and it's like, oh man, that sucks that I did what I did and I've been lied to, the greatest crime against humanity. And so people really have to start paying attention, and not just, and again, when Abby and I tell you guys something, go do your research. We're not, Abby and I are extremely imperfect. We're not the end all, say all, be all. Certainly not. But I have said this, and this is going to come off as arrogant, and I just know it is. So I'm going to say, I don't mean this, guys. I don't mean to sound arrogant. But Abby, don't you feel this way? Aren't you a little sick of being right so often?
You know what, Reagan? I just want to say I love winning. Okay? I love winning.
Yes.
So much.
I'm super competitive. I love winning. I need to win. I like to be right. But I will tell you, I
really do need to create that shirt that says conspiracy theorists turn prophet. Like, we really do.
We do. We would sell. That's what we're doing. People hold us to that. Conspiracy theorists turn prophet. And now I remember my quote: offend me into heaven, but don't you dare love me into hell. That's my quote. We're making t-shirts with that too. But it is. I'm literally, with everything, I'm like, I'm sorry, but I was right again. And it sucks. I'm a beauty queen. It sucks being right on these hard, bad issues where it's like, why is no one listening? Why is no one seeing this for themselves? And that's why, again, Abby, we're living in a time where it's just people are seeing two different realities. People are seeing two different realities. And I swear, those of us who are seeing what is actually happening, God has removed that veil for us. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
Because those of you out there who think Biden's doing a good job and he's a practicing Catholic, and that Nancy Pelosi is a good practicing Catholic, I am sorry, but you are wrong. You are terribly wrong.
Yeah, but the Pope is giving them the Eucharist.
Yes.
No, I mean, but Father Frank can't be a priest anymore.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
It is. And this is where God uses it. Romans 8:28. God can take anything bad and use it for his good. And I hope these people who are sacrificing their livelihoods, their lives, it's God is going to use it to awaken other people up, right? These unfortunate, horrific cancellations in these events that are taking place, they are all signs. They are all signs of what's happening. And it's wild. That's all I say, Abby. That's all I've got anymore. I talk to people and I'm like, it's wild.
Catholic Church gone wild. That's what we're dealing with right now. That's what it is. It's like Latin Mass gone mild. The rest of Catholic Church gone wild.
We need a t-shirt with that too. And I saw too, I think it was Taylor Marshall that wrote, the Vatican needs an exorcism. We need to get Father Ripperger around.
When you look at some of the art that's out right now, like in the nativity scenes that are in front of the Vatican, and I mean, just some of the stuff that's going on, and like the Pachamama thing on, people are mad because, Father Frank put that aborted baby on a table. P.S. It wasn't even an altar. It was a table. They're mad that he put that aborted baby there, but like that idol, that Pachamama, but the Pope put that on like a legitimate altar, and that was perfectly fine. Come on, guys. Like, what's going on here? And by the way, I know I'm not like a very like knowledgeable Catholic, but doesn't every altar have a relic in it? And isn't that a dead person?
Oh, wow. You've got me there. I don't know.
Out about an aborted baby being on a table that's being used as an altar. And there are literally relics of dead people inside of every Catholic altar.
I mean, I see no issue with that we're showing one of God's children, one of God's innocent children who's been slaughtered.
I don't know. I mean, it's just like, come on, guys. It's just like they're just reaching, and they literally said one of the reasons that they laicized him was because of social media posts. Are you kidding me? You've got heretical posts on some of our priests' social media, but he called somebody a loser, which he later apologized for. But there's no grace in that. But heretical posts from priests are all over social media, and they defend it. They're like, right. No, I defend all the heretical stuff I put out there. I love it. That's who I am as a priest, and that's perfectly fine. But he posts something, calls somebody a loser, which he later deletes and apologizes for. And that is one of the things that they're using to say that's one of the reasons that they laicized him.
I mean, yeah, that's enough to be. That's absurd. It's absurd, and
it's just reaching. It's reaching. They just did not want him to be a priest anymore. That's it. He was like a thorn in their butt cheek, and they just did not want him to be that thorn anymore. And so they did what they could.
And we're going to keep seeing this. We're going to keep seeing, more good priests like Father Frank, Father Altman, being canceled, and these other heretics just being. Again, it has nothing to do with Catholicism, so it just blows my mind, and I think they need to, what they're preaching to people about love is love and acceptance. No, that's not what the Bible says. And Abby, we're seeing an all-time high on the traditional family being attacked. And who was it? Was it Padre Pio, or was it another saint that said in the final days, marriage in the family will be, was that at Fatima? Mm-hmm. Will be attacked. That was Mary. And I mean, we're seeing it. People who know my story, I personally lived it. It's everybody needs to be on their toes, praying for discernment, praying for obedience, and praying also for courage to speak up. When you see these horrific things happening around you, you've got to start taking a stance for something. And not everyone is a podcaster. Not everyone's a public speaker. Not everyone, and that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying even in the smallest arenas, in the smallest places, you've got to start.
Well, like with your family.
With your own family. Who cares? You have to be unafraid to not be accepted and unafraid to be disliked. Bottom line. And that is what's holding people back. They don't want to hurt people's feelings. They want to be accepted. They want to be liked. And I know we all have that innate desire to be accepted and to be liked, but that's gone out the window for you and I many, many moons ago. As many people that like us, that many people hate us. And that means we're doing something right. If you're pleasing everybody, you're doing something wrong. And so it's so unfortunate what has happened with Father Frank. And so keep him in your prayers.
Please do. I have to say he's doing well, and he's he's not going anywhere. So he's, continuing to do his work and do what needs to be done, for Priest for Life. And he, that's not going to end. So, but please do pray for him, because this is, of course, very difficult and really feels kind of like a betrayal, I mean, this is his life. So,
yes.
But yeah.
So, yes, pray for him. Say a rosary for him. Offer the Eucharist up for him. And everybody watching this, Abby and I just want to wish you the most beautiful Christmas. Make sure you get your entire family to Mass. Also, just a reminder, guys, if you have been putting off confession, no one should be receiving the Eucharist in a state of mortal sin. And even, I know what bothers me. I have like dozens of venial sins every day. I mean, the list is long. And so even if get to confession, get to a Mass this weekend. And again, as much as evil is running rampant, we know who wins in the end. And there is so much good still out there. And
that's actually what Father Frank said when I talked to him that night. He said, just, because I was pretty angry, and he said, stay in the sacraments. And he said, that's the best thing that you can do is to stay in the sacraments, stay in confession.
Yes.
Receive the Eucharist. And he was like, that's the best thing that you can do. And so, and I have to say, after all that's gone on with Father Frank, I needed to go to confession.
So. There's times Abby and I are talking. A week ago, I had said something. I'm like, well, I need to go to confession anyways later. So, and I let it rip, which again just shows my sinful, flawed self. But it is. It's so walking out of confession is just so amazing. And again, our sacraments are so beautiful. And adoration, if you can get to adoration's amazing. Sometimes when I go and I take my kids, I'm in there only 3 minutes. And I know those 3 minutes are just so meaningful to God. And so, yes. And so for all of our Catholics who are worried, or all of our Protestant friends, I've had people message me who said things like this. They want to make their conversion to Catholicism, and this makes them hesitate. Do not hesitate. It is no surprise all of these attacks on the one true, holy Catholic Apostolic Church. And you've just got to be willing to fight the good fight and never leave Jesus due to Judas, because Judas is everywhere right now.
Yeah. In every church.
Every church.
It's everywhere. Yes.
So, yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Everybody have a wonderful Christmas. Have a Merry Christmas.
Yes.
Oh, Lucy is showing you her little 12-week baby.
Oh, is that a 12-week baby?
Tomato.
Look at that baby, Lucy.
That little tiny baby. Yeah. It's a very dirty baby because it's been in mommy's purse.
That baby needs a bath.
That baby needs a bath.
Do you remember my name?
Yeah, she remembers your name.
Lucy, you and I have had chats on the phone. I'm never forgetting Lucy. You and I are buds.
Okay, so Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Okay. All right, guys, we will be back possibly once more before the new year, but it feels good to be back. We missed you guys.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
Now I got to figure out what to get my parents for Christmas. I still haven't got anything for them. So,
speaking of that, Abby, tell them to check their messenger from me. They're supposed to be helping me with your Christmas gift, and Doug's been trying to help me. So tell your mom and dad to check their messages.
Oh, that's iffy. I don't know. They probably don't know how to check their messenger. So that's.
I'm like, it's a whole different inbox for them. They're not going to find those.
I had to help my dad figure out how to check his mail the other day. So that's tough.
Oh my gosh. All right,
Okay.
guys. Merry Christmas. We
Merry
love you
Christmas.
all. We'll see you guys soon.